feeling the sternum. The sternum is in three parts. The top part, which is called the manubrium, which means handle in Latin. So it looks like a sword when you see the whole sternum. So the top bit is like the handle or the hilt. It's got the three notches. It's got the sternal notch at the top, and then two notches either side where the collarbones slot into. And then beneath that, you've got the body of the sternum, which is like the blade of the sword, reaches down. And then at the very bottom, you've got the xiphoid process, which is a cartilage, which is like the point of the sword. And the xiphoid cartilage pokes down into the very hollow of the chest, the deep heart. So here it's broadening. It's a broad sword. My shoulder blades are pulling together and my chest is opening. So behind the manubrium, behind the top of the sternum, there is the thymus. Feel the top of the sternum branching into the collarbones. It looks like a Christian cross. The sternum is the vertical section portion, and the collarbones is the horizontal. And where they cross, you have the thymus. And then feel the bottom of the spine. So the spine descending into the sacrum and branching into the hips is like an inverted structure of the sternum. Pull my head back so it's my thymus, the top of my sternum that's dominant, not my forehead or my chin. We want to feel those two aspects of our being. So the front, that's sternum branching out, which is like me. It's what ego has become. But then there's also a bigger me that reaches out from my spine and embraces that and embraces whatever I'm encountering. So we don't want this bringing the hands in to crush the front. My front is still proud and rising. It's just I have a big enough heart to embrace it. Okay, let's look at the hands and we'll do the knees. I'm going to keep my shoulders relaxed, dropping. Like there's a generator in your dantian. We want to just feel the essence of movement, really. So movement is not just a still thing that is moving around. It's activity being generated at a point that's extending. So the cauldron of my belly is simmering. In the classics, it says when one part moves, all parts move. When one part is still, all parts are still. So movement with respect to each other So every part is moving with respect to its neighbors. So I'm becoming more and more possessed by movement. Because remember, what we're looking for is to slip into the trance, the transcendental, heightened awareness. And we do that through movement, really, in Tai Chi. And then the same thing, but without the knees. So now I have to imagine resistance, like two curtains, and you slip your hands between them, and then you have to really pull here to open the curtains. And then you want to close the curtains. So here you have to pull to bring them back. So it's still coming from belly, lower back. I open the curtains, the light comes flooding in, and I pull them closed and it becomes dark again. The world in, right down into the belly, and then almost turning inside out. And bringing a turn into it. Feel the dimension that's added when we turn. It's like, ooh, something new. Novelty comes in. Reaching. So this is more linear. So it's slipped down a notch. the spirit. It's like a sense of curiosity. A part of your mind is always ahead. You know. And then up and down with both hands, pulling the head back at the top. As the hands reach up, feel the sternum reaching up at the sacrum, digging down. And then the hands just up and out. One hand over and turning the head. And then reaching back again and bearing the chest, stretching across the sternum. And now rolling the head. The other way. Then the hands back round to prayer. And feel the danchan. Mind in danchan. When the mind is still, it's like your beingness is given permission to condense, to draw in. And this is the center of that. Like athletes, they're given this instruction: pull your navel towards your spine so that they get the right angle of the hips, because they don't want the hips to tilt forwards, because it just means they're not as ready. So that's the sense of mind in the danchan. It's just like a little instruction. You just feel this point and just draw it in. It pulls into itself, but it also draws towards the sacrum. Together and able to perceive the world. Just sort of wakes you up like a little wake-up call. So we don't want sinking into the danchan to be this. It's just something down here that anchors me and holds me together so that I can bloom out. Okay, let's rub the hands again. We'll do the eyes. good athlete will just, they'll naturally have it right. So mind in Dan Chen is like their physical togetherness and active thymus. That's where the burst out of themselves to do the task comes. And we see it really well in runners, especially like sprinters. They've got these good open chests, like something inside is wanting to explode out of the chest. A6, remember that? Training shoe company, anima sano incorpore sano. A sound mind in a sound body. For the Greeks, athletics was really important, not just for the body, but for the person, for the mind. And now, hands over the eyes. And the hands up, pointing the two fingers and out. And now snaking. Eyes just looking ahead, but aware of the peripheral vision, the movement. Feel the chest lifting and splitting into the collarbones and down the arms. And just bringing the hands in to the down chin. And then the hands slipping round to the sacrum. So here I have to pull my shoulders back so that my chest doesn't pinch in. One hand on each sacroiliac, feeling the bleed in and out of that joint. And then just a little bit in the butterfly. So if anything, it's easier to feel the tension. And then we just want to register the sternum rising up out of that. Like a vase of flowers. All the stems of the flowers reaching down to here, and you have this profusion of beauty reaching upwards. in the leg. The other side. The other side again. And the other side. And back to the squat. Feel the dantian drawing into itself. And now let's lean back, lie back and cycle. That's the belly pulling in that keeps you together. So hands on the belly and cycling. Then up into the sumo squat. Feel the danshan together and feel this branching. As though you're clasping the thymus in your hands. So you have the thymus behind the manubrium here. And then just above that, in the throat, of course, there's the thyroid. Thymus is your spirit, your life force. And thyroid is your metabolism. And then coming up. How do I do that? Just standing. Feel the danshan. So this is instruction that the athletes give themselves. Navel, or we know it's the danshan, it's slightly beneath the navel towards the spine. So a sense of contraction and drawing in here. And then this can really become active. When the sprinter launches himself from the blocks, it's his legs, obviously, that provide the power. So it's his push back, but that all comes from a burst in here. So the real impetus spiritually is the thymus reaching out, wanting to express, wanting to win. And now let's try a bit of the heart qigong. So what we want to feel is this point, the thymus, so just behind the manubrium, the top of the sternum. So imagine the sternal notch, there's a hole. And what we're going to do is reach out and pour what we've gathered down this hole so that it can gather in the sternum, in the thymus. So reach out. And then here I have to do something. I have to expand my chest and lift it upwards to create space behind the sternum for this energy to come into. I'm reaching out. And then I bring that into that hole above the sternum. And then I just draw it down until it reaches the Dan Chan where it can pull. And then I just repeat it. Dropping down, reaching out. Imagine you're reaching, drawing in the whole room down into the thymus. And this time, bring it down to the Dan Chan. Let the hands flatten, so sort of making this shape with the hands. And then bending the legs, just push forwards with those little finger outside edges, trying to keep the hands flat. You know, like we do at the end of some of the white crane Qigong forms. Feeling the stretch from the spine down the outside edge of the arms. And then just relax the hands and repeat. Straightening the legs to reach. Bringing the energy into the thymus, then down to the Dan Chen. Swelling out, really bending the legs. So don't worry about sticking the bum out. Unless you come off your heels, you're going to lean forwards a little bit. Now reaching out and bringing it into this point between the eyes. It's the same thing. We've just brought it in a slightly different point and then down. So it comes through this point into that midbrain point, the hypothalamus pituitary pineal, which your tip of the tongue is pushing up into, and then down the tongue into the throat, thymus, belly, and just swelling out, sort of intensifying. And one more. Reaching out, bringing it into the forehead or the between the eyes, into the middle of the brain, down the tip of the tongue, which is pushing up into the palate, into the throat. So down all the way down the tongue into the throat, and it hops across into the thymus, and then just sinks down. And then from there, you just sink. And then just bringing it up. And now riding horse. This feels quite a relief after that. Feel the spine, the sinking down the spine, branching across from the sacrum into the hips, and eventually flowing down, so very much in the outside edges. And then feel the flow up the front, so up here, branching into the collarbones, Dantian and thymus are in vertical alignment. Water and fire. The water's still, so it's pooling, it's gathering and settling. And this is ever active because it's fiery. And now let's breathe it. So getting the lower back belly activated again. This is where we want our movement to come from. This is the engine, if you like, of our movement. The legs are like the powerhouse, but the activity starts here. So I have to get this machine, so I have to kickstart it, get it idling, so that it's always there in the background. When you pull in, coming into the down chin. When you come out, you're coming up into the thymus. But slowly up. So it all creeps up from the down chin. It slowly rises until finally it's expressing. turning with it a bit. Feeling the turn coming from the action of the legs. So when we did this sitting down, we were twisting rather than turning. So the hips were still because I was sitting. Now I'm moving the hips with the legs. So my back leg holds to pull me back to the front. And then this leg starts pushing, but then quite quickly, I have to push with both legs. So I continue turning, pulling with the leg, and then pushing with both legs. And then back to riding horse. And now we want to go down, do that one where we sort of reach down and lift like a ball off the ground. But I want to get it coming from my legs. My legs open up. My legs really try to widen, and that pulls me down, almost like I'm reluctant to go down, but the legs insist. My legs open up, and then I just reach underneath this ball and lift it. And again, I'm coming up just as reluctantly as I was going down, so I have to get it all coming from the legs. My legs open, and that bends them, which pulls me down. And now my legs start straightening, but my body doesn't want to come up, so they really have to work to get me to come up. We tend to come up with the mind before the body is properly done its work. So here I want to stay down, and so really have to push. Can't do too many of those. Coming off the heels as a way of activating the thymus a bit. Pull my heels up and just feel that wobble and that shake in the body when you lose the stability, the rooted stability of the heels. And that sort of wobbly tremble is very similar to the activity that we want in the, this is, if anything, it's a much higher frequency than this, but the feeling in the body, thymic energy. And then rocking back onto the heels one at a time. I go down into this heel and down into this heel. And now I have that stability. It's like a slowness. Thymus is high frequency, quick. Belly is low frequency, almost no frequency. And now let's try that again, coming off the heels. So if we become alive, I've opened up, everything has expanded, and suddenly I'm interested in what's outside me. All the time I have to get this feeling that it's sinking through this, otherwise I'll be too unstable and I'll want to topple forwards. Feel the tail. The tail that we normally get hanging down now points backwards, the same way that the thymus is wanting to point forwards. So I'm ready to charge. Imagine those sumo guys on the dockyo, they just launch themselves at each other. They get terrible injuries in their neck from the impacts. And now back, back, and everything has settled. So this is like the top of the tree. Imagine the crown of the tree full of life, its own life, and the birds and the insects. So it's got all this sort of flighty, flickering energy. And then I rock back. And now I just sink down the bole of the tree and into the roots and the ground. And I'm just really slow now. Slow and settled. And now let's try. So those two exercises, the one of going down like this and picking up the ball, and this one of coming off the heels, they're just the two aspects of the tree, really. So now let's try put them together. So I'm sinking down the spine, splitting at the sacrum, going down because my legs are opening. And then like I'm pulling something up, I'm pulling something by its roots out of the ground, pulling it up. And then I'm coming up, coming off the heels, reaching up and drawing down and into myself. The heels settle back down the outside and the back of the legs, up the front and the inside of the legs into the groin, these points here, into the belly, up here, branching into the arms, coming off the heels, pulling down. And one more. And then just branching down the arms into ward off and riding horse. And now let's try the two circles. Reaching around something and gathering it in. Feeling the yield, the vacuum, the hole that we make, the softness here in the shoulder. The feeling is that the hand comes in because I've softened here and created this vacuum which sucks the hand in. So something happens here, drawing the hand in. This is yielding, and consequently, this is Tai Chi. Without this, it's not really Tai Chi. It would be just Qigong. My chest hollows. Yielding is an act of compassion. It envelops the other person and draws them into you. And we want to get that down into the groin. So there's an opening here as I turn that is really that's really the vacuum. That's responsible for the whole thing, really. So something opens here and that draws my hand down towards it. So let the hand drop and cut into the inguinal fold. This happens in the form all the time. It's my groin that is pulling the hand towards it. So the hand goes out because of this wing that comes out of the back here and out of here, but it pulls in because of the hole that I'm creating at the front, either side of the midline, either side of the sternum. And this is the pulling with the leg. So when we move by pulling with the leg rather than pushing with it, and effectively what we're just yielding to the ground. I'm softening here, that brings the hand in, but it also brings me towards the foot. Reaching from the sacrum and then pulling into the groin. Out from the back, into the heart. So when we start off doing the 2 circles exercise, obviously the movement's coming from the arms because I'm just establishing it, setting it up. But eventually the arms are just being moved by my wings and my groin. It just feels so different when the movement comes from elsewhere. And the part of the body that's moving feels so different than when the movement comes from it. It's much softer. And then let's just bring it back. Just feel it now. So the back is emanating but coming round. And this just feels really tender because it's receiving all the time. And I never receive into the middle. It's one side. This is why the turning is so important. If you receive into your middle, you're going to get knocked back. So I receive either side of the ridge line. Backwards and forwards. Let's try this one. I keep it simple. Feeling the action of the leg. So if I want to move from front leg to back leg, my back leg bends to start pulling me. And then once it's gathered more than half of the weight, the front leg becomes the active one, the empty one, and that straightens to really push me right back. And then the front leg bends, and then the back leg straightens. Bend, straighten. I have to be very clear in my mind, really feel that point where the active leg becomes the passive leg. So this is pulling me. And then there comes a point where it has more than half the weight. And now I'm having to do something quite different. It's like, I'm having to sort of hold myself and then the other leg can become active. So it's a bit like the movement from thymus to belly. So the activity is from the thymus, so that my bending leg is thymic, and now the supporting leg is from the dantian. Active, I'm with the activity. When I'm passive and just supported, then my mind can really open up and see the bigger picture. It's like the animal that suddenly stops and looks around to see if there's any predators. When it's moving, it can't really see other than where it's going. So we need these moments of settled stillness so that I can make sure I don't lose the bigger picture. And the other foot falls. We already suck from the groin. I bend the leg, I open here. That draws me towards the foot, but it also sucks this hand down. Down the back, down the spine, ooh, into the hips, down the legs, down into the ground, then up the inside of the legs, into the groin, the dantian, up the front, and cross into the shoulders and down the arms. A riding horse, my container, my ward off, contains this thymic structure, which is this cross that branches out. So it's almost the opposite of what it contains. So this is round and tending to do this, and this is coming up the middle and tending to do this. That's the tension of ward off. The arms are bent, but they're wanting to explode straight. And now let's bring the feet up. Let's just try a little bit of this one. Like you're kneading the ground. Feeling the motor. The motor is always threatening to speed up, overheat, and explode. And it's the sinking, the world, really, that keeps it tempered. Taking the foot off the ground the way we do. I'm going to put the weight in the foot by circling around it. And then just drag the other leg up just above the knee. We're trying to get the foot higher and higher. Eventually, we just like to have it into this place where it is when we're meditating. Foot outside edge through to the little toe, round to the big toe presses down. The other foot comes up, trying to stay relaxed in the sacrum and this hip, the hip that's supporting it. So the energy doesn't get stuck in the tense joint. Around. Try and use the opposite hand if you can, because it's something very strong about opposite hand and foot touching. Like the body's really unified. Let's just step with it. Feeling this real sort of round, gathered in feeling from the Dan Chen. I want to send my foot out in order to step without breaking this togetherness. When we normally send a foot out, I sort of split, I bring my body up, and you see it when people, when they step, they've already fallen into the foot before it hits the ground. So I'm really together here. And then I just probe out with the foot. And in order to do that, I have to really bend the leg that's supporting me. I bend the leg to extend the foot out. And then when I come into it, again, I'm just gathering everything in. And now stepping back is difficult. That's the difficult bit. So I've got to really probe out with this foot without splitting my upper body. And then once the toe's on the ground, then I can roll into it. And then stepping back again. You know, this is difficult. The back naturally curves a bit, so I just have to reduce that without using too much tension, just using the quietness of my mind and gathering into the foot and drawing this one up. And then stepping out. So stepping forward is relatively easy if you've got the strength in the leg to stay down. Sink. And step forwards again. Throw back. Foot. And then around. Gathering, sucking in. And so it's this feeling in my Dan Chen that's drawing my foot up as much as anything. And I have to keep that feeling here. Step back. And then I can grab the foot by circling around it. One more. Forwards. Probe out with the foot. Don't touch the ground. We want to get the foot down that final couple of inches by bending the supporting leg. And then stepping back. And again, it's my supporting leg that's lowering me down. Okay, let's just try standing again. Arms stemming from the back, the wings, the wing aspects of the arms. The same thing here. And then the same thing here. These are really the horns. The horns aren't really things that come out of the front here. They sort of come out of the back and round. Feel those three important bones. Sacrum, connected to the dantian. Upper part of the sternum, the manubrium, connected to the thymus. And the occiput here, where the spine hits the skull, the very back of the skull really, which is the cave for this central brain point. And I can be with the heels sinking down, this flow, this uniform, constant flow down. Or I can just rock my weight forwards a little bit, more into the front of the foot, and suddenly I'm with this spirit energy, this fizzy liveliness. There's always one that's tired that needs a bit of a break. So it's great being able to just slip to and fro. And then bring the feet together. Again, just imagine the sprinter. You know, they're so well trained. Standing there, you've got these sort of slim, skin type suits. No bulge here whatsoever because it's tight. It's contained. They're together. Their togetherness is here. And yet this is just raring to go.